You are listening to a curated clip from the Naturally Inspired podcast. Subscribe today at livenaturallyinspired.com. This is like an intense subject, and I think that it has gotten more awareness brought to it over the last couple of years, and we're going to talk about that through the podcast. But first, let's discover, Shae, how you got involved in advocating for human rights and being a part of this issue to stop human trafficking.
Yeah, so my journey started back when I was 18 years old, going back to 2003. So if you do the math, you know how old I am. And I had moved to the island of Oahu, which is, home to Waikiki and Honolulu, as many people know. And that's where I started my university education. And if you've been there before, you know that there's three main roads that parallel the ocean. And the middle one is known as Kuhio Avenue. And if you stay there long enough, you'll come to learn it's known as Candylane. And it was on this street that our dorm was situated. And so they had taken one of the hotels and half operated as a hotel and the other half operated as dorms. And literally across the street from me was, I'd see the transformation of the street happen. And it would become the track, which is just, a place where girls are walking, basically offering sex. And by day, you'd see families with their kids in board shorts and surfboards. And by night, you would see this transformation to girls that looked much younger than me, who were practically half naked, walking on the strip there.
Wow.
And being that I was so young, and seeing girls that looked so much younger than me, like 13, 14, 15 years old, and most females would agree that a 13-year-old who puts on red lipstick and like a pair of high heels can very easily look like they're 18, 19, 20.
Yeah.
And so being that I was 18 at the time, seeing these girls that really looked younger than me, I wanted to understand why. Why would a girl choose to be in this? And regardless of what your position is, if you think prostitution is right or wrong, for me, it was irrelevant. I really wanted to understand why. And this is what took me down a path. It was about 3 years of my life. I lived on the island for just over 3 years, 3.5 years. And during that time period, I started to get to know these girls. And that was like through many different ways that I was able to do that. But I started to learn about their stories, and I started to learn about the fake modeling agency that didn't exist on Oahu when they showed up there. I learned about the job opportunities that they were promised from Minnesota, LA, New York, etc. And when they showed up there, it didn't exist. I learned about, even the men that were promised over in Thailand opportunity for jobs on Oahu, and were being exploited for forced labor, like on the island of Oahu. And so what I started to learn through these stories is that, and specifically with the girls, that the word prostitute that we equate so much with choice was widely being misrepresented, and the more accurate word to be using is prostituted.
Look for Naturally Inspired Podcast on all podcast platforms, video platforms, or go to naturallyinspiredpodcast.com.